So the genre niche is what I think most people think of when they talk about your niche. And that would be, oh, I work on, heavy metal music, or I work on, hip hop and rap, or I work on pop, whatever that is. So what I like to use is what I call the style niche. And the style niche is figuring out and understanding all of the kind of underlying characteristics that are in the music that you're drawn to that are not necessarily specific to a genre. It's not necessarily about what the genre description is and how like Spotify categorizes it, right? And it's more about what are the characteristics in the music that draw me into it.
This is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the show where we help you make exciting records on your own, wherever you are, DIY style. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Recording Band Podcast. I am your host, Benediktine. If you are new to the show, welcome. So stoked to have you. If you're already a listener, welcome back. Always glad to have you as well, of course. This show is available on your favorite podcast platform like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you enjoy your podcasts. And it's also available on YouTube if you weren't aware. So if you prefer the video version, you can just go to our YouTube channel and enjoy the conversation there and look at our nice, beautiful faces, especially the one of our guest today. It's not just Malcolm and I. So it's that I can already say. And this leads me to what this episode is about. This is another interview episode, and I'm always very excited about those. So today we are talking to Carl Bahner. So Carl is a mix engineer, co-producer, which I find very interesting, and I totally understand what he means. We'll get to that. Mixing engineer, co-producer, and self-proclaimed earworm wrangler, which I love that term. That's on his website there. I love that. And we connected through like mutual friends or people we met and like people Carl works with and that I met in Los Angeles. And it was just a perfect match. And I had to bring him on to the podcast. So what stood out to me about Carl is how he has a way of communicating what he does and how he works with artists that I think really resonates with artists. And it's crystal clear if you go to his website that he really cares about the music and about the people he's working with. And that it's much more than just a commodity that he's selling or like a service provider that does a cookie cutter thing. It's much more than that. He really cares, and it's crystal clear when you read the copy on his website and when you talk to him more than anything. And so I want to talk more about this today. I want to talk about the relationship between producers, mix engineers, and artists. I want to talk about from the artist's perspective, how to find the right person to work with, and from the producer's perspective, how to attract your ideal, artist that you want to work with, and how that all works, and the magic that can happen when the right people come together. And I think Carl is an expert in all of that, and also in branding. He helps producers build their brands and their studio careers, and all of that. I'm super excited. Welcome, Carl Bahner, to the podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And as always, I'm not doing this alone. I'm here with my co-host and buddy, Malcolm Owen Flood, as well. So I hope both of you are doing well. And again, welcome, Carl.
Yeah, welcome, Carl. Thanks for coming on, man. It's going to be awesome.
Holy cow, that was the best intro anyone's ever given for me. And I think I'm just going to take that clip and just put that on my website as like the first thing that somebody sees. Because, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. It's pretty smooth, eh?
Yeah, I am genuinely blushing right now. No, thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, when we met a few weeks ago through a mutual friend of ours, my manager, Dave Rosica, he warned us that we were going to get along so well and we'd have so much to talk about. And he was not wrong. I feel like we hit it off like immediately, Benedict. And I am really thankful that you wanted me to come on here and, share my ramblings with your audience and hopefully help everybody to get a better understanding of how to approach this weird industry in a way that helps bring more money to you and also more fulfillment to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I love this. So I agree. I totally agree, Carl. Like this was a match right from the beginning, and David was totally right in connecting us. So yeah, maybe quick, like I don't want to do the full, biography thing. That is always kind of boring. But like maybe just a quick backstory. So you started out as, I guess, a producer, then turned to like a mixing engineer, and then into helping like other producers build their brands and studios. Right? Is that about the journey?
Well, I actually started out as a session drummer and touring drummer.
Oh,
So I've been, making music professionally for 19 years and full-time for 15. And in the beginning, I was a session drummer and gigging drummer, teaching lessons to, being a, sonic mercenary behind the drum set in the Philadelphia area. That's where I was living at the time. And I started making the transition into more production and mixing right around like 2015, 2016. It wasn't necessarily a choice that I wanted to shift careers. It was just that I was having fun noodling around. I think it's as simple as that sounds. That's really what it was. I had some experience doing some recording and engineering, but it was mostly just recording my own bands or my friends. And it was very casual, but it was always secondary to what I saw as my main, career trajectory, which was as a drummer. And I was in a band that had a label and management and, all that stuff for a while. And when we would be out touring, there would be a lot of boring downtime, especially driving through the States and like touring through the Midwest. And, it's a 10-hour drive day of nothing but, mom and pop gas stations and McDonald's. And I started doing remixes for some friends' bands because I was just bored, right? It was it was something, I had a laptop and a abundance of time in the back of the van. And I just got very lucky that the friends bands that I was doing these remixes for were bands like Hippocampus and the Wombats and St. Lucia and these really, really fantastic artists. And through doing that, I started to get a bit of the bug for production and taking it more seriously rather than it just being kind of an extension of me being a drummer and just, recording rehearsals. This became something that I actually wanted to be a little bit more involved in. That turned into, starting to make a bit of a name for myself in that world, and then getting other bands asking me to reach out or asking me to remix them, and then other artists asking me to produce them. And next thing I knew, I was producing and mixing more than I was playing drums. And I took it as a bit of a sign and kept going and started making it into more of an intentional transition. And my whole career has kind of continued in that sort of a path where I find something that I love and I really enjoy doing, and I enjoy the people that I do it with. And then when something new presents itself in a way that scratches all of those same itches, but maybe scratches a few more as well, then I get pulled toward that. So for me, it was being a drummer, playing with a bunch of different bands all over the area, gigging 15 to 20 times a month, then getting pulled towards doing production and mixing, especially doing stuff remotely, because I could work with a bunch of different artists, a lot of different artists every month, a lot of different styles of music, but I was able to do it in a bit of a bigger scope as a producer and engineer rather than just being the drummer. And then when I really started to narrow down my focus into primarily doing mixing and additional production, the scope of what I was doing, like the big picture scope, like the service scope of what I was doing with each artist was getting a little bit smaller because I was mostly focusing on mixing and then helping out with the last like 3% of their productions. And it enabled me to go deeper into that, get a lot better at that, and also do a higher quantity of projects like that, which enabled me to get better a lot faster, meet more people a lot faster. And that's where I was for quite a few years before I started to help other producers and engineers with their branding, which seems kind of unrelated, but it actually ended up being like that next logical step for me. I didn't realize this at the time when I was a drummer, but what really drew me to being a session drummer as opposed to just being in a band was the fact that I really thrived on helping artists to by supporting their creative vision and helping them to achieve that vision and helping that vision to connect with the audience members, right? I didn't look at it that way at the time. I thought I just liked being on stage. I thought I liked, Carl smash, bang, go, boom, loud noise, butts dance. You know what I mean? Like that's how I saw it in the moment. And then when I started making that transition into into mixing and production, again, it really was the same thing that drew me in there. I just didn't realize it consciously. Like, it wasn't front of mind. I thought, oh, I get to work with all these different kinds of artists, and I also don't have to sleep on couches. This is great. But it was me being able to help more artists in a deeper way.
Yeah.
Connect with their vision, and then instead of it being just connecting with the audience in the room in that moment as a live drummer, they could connect with those fans and those listeners in perpetuity, because the songs are being recorded and put out there in CDs, vinyl, Spotify, wherever it goes. So the reason that helping other producers and engineers with their branding and their client acquisition seemed like the next logical step for me, it was because that enables me to do that next step, going from helping the artists, playing drums to help artists connect with people in the moment, to mixing and producing to help artists connect with people in perpetuity, right? This is, okay, I can help other producers and engineers get better at finding the right clients for them, and the clients that they're more likely to be able to actually help and achieve those visions for those artists.
And you can kind of multiply yourself. Yeah.
I can multiply it. Yeah. It's a way for me to be able to kind of scale the
impact you're having.
The impact. Yeah. Like I know, like it's very different from being a drummer, in the sense that when I was a drummer, like everything was very physical, very tangible, very like in the moment live response. Like the energy is right there. And this is very much on the other end, where it's more of a butterfly effect, I guess. It's more of me trying to help inspire and influence the way that these people promote themselves online, the way they have conversations, the way that they're more picky about who they reach out to, who they say yes to, who they say no to. So it is a much more of a longer game influence than, making booties shake out on the dance floor. Right. But it's way more rewarding than I ever would have imagined, because I don't have like a business background. Like, I don't have a degree in business. My degree was in orchestral percussion performance. So this is definitely
it's the same thing.
Yeah, basically. So this is not something that I had in my, my 20-year plan by any stretch. But when I kind of take a step back and look at what the desires were that really drew me into doing what I do, it makes all the sense in the world.
Yes.
Well, it sounds to me like what I'm hearing is that it didn't really matter where you were, as long as you were joining a team and then contributing and kind of completing that team almost, and pushing that team forward. Like, and that makes a ton of sense to me. There's, everybody does start with the band in our world of like, all right, we're a team, but then you do a session gig and you're like, oh, I can be on multiple teams at once and have impact in this room that we're now in, shared kind of thing. And then moving on to your coaching and educational aspects of helping, the artists or the producers then make something that's going to impact a lot more people forever, because they're creating something in perpetuity, as you said. That's you're just kind of filling in the blank spot where, hey, there's a team that needs somebody. I can be that guy. That's really awesome.
And that's always been my biggest driver. And I think I was more conscious of that desire to be a contributing member of a team much sooner than I realized that connection about, like, me being driven by trying to help make those emotional connections. Like, that was that was more of like an undercurrent thing that was always there, and I just wasn't aware of it. But being part of a team was something that I always did really love and enjoy, because music is a social sport. Like, we don't, especially as a drummer, when I was first getting into it, I've never met a drummer that wanted to learn how to play drums so they can just sit in a practice room by themselves.
Right.
Like, that is not the end goal for anybody that wants to play music, right? Yeah. And I'm sure there's going to be like 3 exceptions in all of mankind, but but generally that's the thing. And I think always being terrible at sports made me feel better about myself when I could find musical teams that I could actually play a good role in.
Yeah. I think like ultimately music's trying to communicate, pretty much bottom line, right? So there's so many ways to do that. And I think because obviously we're the Self-Recording Band podcast, so we are dealing with a lot of people that are recording themselves. And unfortunately, this is like the easiest area to end up alone in your bedroom with a laptop and not have anybody else working with you. So you lose that communication and until you release, there's no communication potentially and no team as well. So it's interesting. You're just making me think about that. It's like, how do we encourage people to not be in a dark windowless room like I am right now?
Yeah.
Alone.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing that... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead. That's fine.
So I was going to say this actually, the way that I've handled that not from the perspective of how do I get out of that situation, but from the perspective of how do I help others get out of that situation. That's why when it comes to the services that I provide, like in the studio side, like whether I'm doing like co-production or mixing or mastering or whatever, I really don't care as much about what it is that I'm doing on the team. I'm more concerned that I can be helpful to the team. And that's, I don't know if, I'm sure there's like a sports term for that I don't know because I was in marching band. But that I think is something that I've tried to do. And I've tried to figure out how can I help people that want to get out of that space, out of the vacuum of creating alone, but also they maybe don't know where to start with that. So one of the things that I do for a lot of my friends and students that are kind of in that position that's why I love doing stem mastering for people. And I know that might be a hot topic. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like some mastering engineers.
It kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's for me, I have a lot of people that come to me because they may not be able to, afford my full mix rate, or maybe because they really love having the hands-on in their mix, but they really do want to have, somebody to be some last line of defense for, quality control, like of tech issues, or to just like, having a second set of ears that they trust to be able to give them their 2 cents, So for me, like that's been a way that I've been able to help people in that, where it's something that's kind of like low, not a lot of monetary investment for them, but also I think like kind of solves a pretty big pain point where they just want to like feel like sense of peace of mind that they didn't screw up their song. But ultimately it comes down to just having to build trust with them. And that's really I think the big issue with people that don't, or the big issue that causes people to not leave the vacuum of their dark room is that they don't trust, or they don't have people that they could trust with it yet. I don't think that, I'm not saying people aren't trustworthy. I'm just saying that connection of the communication of understanding, like who am I looking for? What are the types of people that I trust with this? What kind of feedback am I looking for? What kind of framing is going to be the most positive and helpful, as how they give me the feedback. And that's something that I think is not really easily taught, learning how to ask for feedback and figuring out who to ask for feedback from is a very difficult skill to teach. But I think the people that really do make it more successfully in this industry over the course of their careers, they've found people that they can trust, and they found ways to be able to know who to trust, who to listen to, how to ask for it.
100%. Like let's actually talk about that connection part, because that's really the most important thing for me here from two perspectives. So again, we are the Self-Recording Band podcast. So the majority of our audience are musicians who record themselves, but many of them want to work with mixers or somebody on their team. Like I love that how you said that it's not necessarily a certain very defined role. It's just someone helping them get their project over the finish line. This could be a mix engineer, a mastering engineer, both, anything in between, co-producer, writing help, whatever it is that helps them get their project done, because many people luckily are very aware of the fact that they can't do everything super well and they need help with certain aspects. And so many of those need help, and so they need some collaboration, some partner, someone on their team to help them with that. And then on the other hand, we have a lot of people in our audience as well who are already pretty accomplished, either accomplished producers or aspiring producers wanting to become producers or mixers for other people, and are trying to build their brand and connect with artists and find their first couple of projects to work on and stuff like that. So what I'm interested in is, how do two people that are a perfect match and would create the perfect team, how do they find each other? So what can a producer do to attract the right artists without, you can't try and sell everything to everybody, of course. So you need to have branding, you need to have the right avatar that you're talking to and all of that. It should be, in my opinion, at least, it should be authentic, especially in our industry. Nobody wants to talk to business people and salespeople. We want to talk to real humans and people who get us and our art and who really care. So how do you do that as a producer? And then on the artist side, how do I know if someone is trustworthy and if it's a good fit for me, and who should I reach out to of all the ads that I'm seeing or posts that I'm seeing or whatever? Like, how do we create these really great teams that are a perfect match and can create magic together?
So what it comes down to, I think, and this is actually kind of going off of what I was saying about the people working in a vacuum and like how they don't have anybody that they can trust, right? Or they don't feel like they have somebody that they can trust. That is, I think, the core of what a producer's branding, a producer's website, content, whatever it is, that should be trying to build trust with the people that are visiting your website or your profile, right? And it's not just getting everybody to trust you. It's about really understanding your ideal clients, because there's trust could be talked about in a couple of different ways, right? And I don't necessarily just mean like trust in the sense that, oh, if I give them money, they're not gonna run away to Mexico or something. You know what I mean? Like there's that kind of version of trust, which that's important, but hopefully I don't have to explain to people how to do that. Yeah. But it's more so a matter of trusting that they actually understand the needs and the problems of the artist. Yeah. And you can't understand the needs and the problems of an artist if you don't know what kind of artist you're trying to help in the first place. And I think a good example that I see a lot with producers and engineers on their websites, for example, or their, social media profiles, they will say, we mix or we record pop, rock, folk, jazz, podcasts, film scores, and everything in between. And casting such a wide net, you'll probably get some clients, but they're probably going to not be the best clients, and they're probably not going to have a clear understanding of what they actually need, because the more clear of an understanding the artists have of what their needs are, well, first off, the probably the better quality of an experience you're going to have as a producer, and the closer you're going to be able to get to actually reaching the vision that they have, because they actually have a vision. But also, then it's going to be.
And they're going to look. No, sorry. They're going to look for a specialist who does exactly what they want. Anyways, like if the artist knows what they want, then they're not going to look for someone who does it all. They're looking for, the question is, can this person give me exactly what I need, and are they like the best at this thing that I need? And I don't care about all the rest. I need that one thing, and they need to do that well, right? So
yeah, exactly. Like if you're like, I'm trying to think of an example, like in the rock and metal world, because there's a lot of like rock and metal listeners in this, right?
Yeah.
So I hope I'm not pronouncing it wrong, but like Josh Schroeder, is that how you pronounce his last name? Okay. So like, I'm sure Josh probably mixed a podcast at some point in his career, but I haven't gone to his website, but I'm assuming you're not going to see podcast services listed on there, right? So I think that's one of the things is making the artist not just know that you do the thing that they really need you to do from a service standpoint, but really, I'm going to get a little maybe a little existential here. But my goal for my website, and hopefully, if anybody that goes to it, carlbahner.com, when you read it, I want my ideal clients to go to that page, and I want them to read within the first first sentence or two. I want them to feel like I am speaking directly to them. I don't just mean saying, "Hi, you. Thanks for coming to my website." I don't mean literally. I mean I want them to feel like I understand the unique pain points that they have, right? And if they don't feel that way, if they feel like I don't understand them, want them to go somewhere else, right? Yeah. That's a scary thing for a lot of producers and engineers. Is like, that's why they put we produce rock, folk, jazz, jam bands, podcasts, 8-bit covers, whatever, because they don't want to lose clients. And I am all about losing clients because if I could be more direct, then the people that do see that and they think, holy crap, this guy, like he knows exactly what I'm going through. Like he understands what my issues are, and it seems like he's a badass at helping to solve them. Well, then, like that website, like that, the website is helping them to convince themselves that I'm the right fit for them.
Yeah.
So that's something that I really say is, as far as how to get the producer and the engineer from their perspective, how to like communicate and like find those people. It's making sure that your messaging is super clear about who you're helping, and not just saying, I help indie pop artists that record at home. It's like, oh, like these are the things that I'm really passionate about helping. And these are the, like, if you have this issue, you are trying to do this, I want to help you to do this. And just feeling okay with polarizing people, not in a political sense of that word, but just, they're going to have a gut feeling about whether or not you're going to be able to be a really great fit for them. And the sooner that they can get to that gut feeling, the better. Because if they feel like you are going to be a good fit, you don't really have to do any convincing. They're convincing themselves. And if they don't think you're going to be a good fit, then they're not going to waste their time, and they're not going to waste your time.
Yeah. And you can do also, you can quote unquote sell your services or whatever you offer in a very authentic way. You don't even have to really sell it that hard, because you're only doing the things you are really good at for the right people that you really want to work with. And so you don't have to pretend you can do something for someone that you actually don't want to work with. So selling is way easier and more natural that way, because it's the things you love to do and you're good at anyways with the people that you want to work with anyways, and everybody else can go somewhere else. And then naturally you create these relationships, hopefully, that are good and that are a perfect match. Now, okay. Yeah. So I can tell that like we're very much about doing things you actually care about, and then actually, caring about the artist that you work with and knowing everything about them and knowing what you can bring to the table. What I think is interesting, I said it in the beginning, is the term you used in your headline there, where it's mix engineer and co-producer. That's totally relatable to me as well. Like I'm Malcolm and I, we mix as well. And I always consider myself like a co-producer in a way, because I don't limit what I do to just mixing. I help people get improve their recordings before they even send it over to me. I help them with their arrangement, whatever the project needs. I help them get all the things done and right that they need to do before it's even ready to be mixed. And many people would say that's outside the scope of the project or whatever. I just make it part of what I offer and part of my agreement with artists. And it's just that way I just get way better results. And I feel like the artist doesn't really need a very specific kind of service. They need someone that can help them complete their project, whatever that takes. And if I can be that person, then I'm happy to do that. And if I can't do it myself, I'm happy to build a team to do it. So I'll be like, I can mix this, but maybe we should get so-and-so on board to help you with these arrangements first, or maybe we need a session drummer or whatever. And so I find this very interesting, because not many people who mix full-time consider themselves co-producers. And I think for the artists in our audience, this is a valuable thing to know, because you might think that you need a mixer when in reality you might not even be aware of the blind spots you're having, and you might not know that, actually those drums are really not good enough. We might have to get a proper drummer on this, or maybe program them, or maybe the arrangement is lacking in this or that way. And if you hire the wrong mixer then, and they don't tell you, you end up with a mix that it's maybe sonically good, but the final product that you have is still not going to be good. So you're better off finding someone like Carl, like people who understand it the way we do, where we say like, we are helping you get this done at a high level, whatever it takes. And if that means we need to build a team, we'll do that, and we'll just guide you in a way and coach you in a way. So that was my long kind of summary of how I understand this headline, but I love that. And it's a very cool thing, I think, for musicians to understand too. And so my question after all of this to you, Carl, is, first of all, I hope I got that right, and it's the way you see it. And the second one is, if I'm an artist, and of course I don't know what I don't know, so I think my tracks are great, I'm looking for a mix engineer. Like, how do I find, like, again, like the whole trust thing, or who do I need or to show me, who do I need to find that, like, a person that can show me like what is actually wrong with my recordings, or like who can I trust with giving me good feedback, and who can I trust with telling me that maybe I don't only need what I think I need, but I need this in addition to that or whatever. Like, how do I, what do I do about these blind spots? And because, yeah, that's the question. Like, how do I hire the right people, and how do I figure that out? Do I go to the websites, read the copy? Do I follow them on social media for a while? Do I reach out? Do I jump on a call with them? Like, what's the best way to figure out if someone is honestly trying to help me with my project and offering me what I really need, because I might not know what I need?
All of the above, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Well, I don't know if you have to do all of them, but I think maybe any of the above. I do think it does come down to ultimately communication and having a conversation with somebody. If you, it's more a matter of, do you have a gut feeling about X, Y, or Z that you think that they could be a good person? You think that they might understand what you're trying to go for? And then just honestly, just asking them, if they're a mixing engineer, but you think that you might need something more than just mixing, asking them to say, hey, I love your mixes. If you like this music, we'd love to talk about having you on the team. I feel like there might be some things missing, but I know you work on a lot more music. That's literally what you do all day, every day. So I don't know if you're willing to give other feedback on the song or not, or things that you think might help to improve it, to make it even better before it would get to your hands. That would be really super appreciated. And then you can really just judge by their response to that, whether or not they're going to be a good fit for it. Because if they are if they say no, then that answers your question. If they, it's weird to say just figure out if they're a human or not. That's such a weird non-answer. But I think ultimately that really so much of what we're talking about today comes down to just being a person, being communicating like a real human, and asking questions. And if they respond really awkwardly about it, and if they're like, oh, no, but we could set up, a paid session to do mix critiques or something, you can then ask yourself, okay, well, is this person mixing 10 Billboard #1s a year, and this is worth me spending some money, or is this just some dude with a YouTube channel that, you know what I mean? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And do you, watching the kind of content that they're making, reading the website, probably more so the content, I would guess, just because most engineers' websites are terrible. But if their content, if the vibe from that seems like they want to be genuinely helpful, then most likely they are. Because it's hard to pretend to care, and it's exhausting to pretend to care. You
don't do it for long. You can fake it for a while maybe, but even then you can tell, and then you definitely won't do it for long. It's not sustainable. And so the people who've been doing it for a while and really seem to care, they usually do care. So that's a good point. What are some red flags or no-goes from the producer perspective, and maybe red flags from the client perspective when it comes to creating content, putting things on your website? What are some things you see that you would say to your producer clients? You would say probably don't do that when you post, or you don't put that way on your website. And from the other perspective, what are those are probably red flags or things that you don't want to see on a producer's profile. Maybe there's some things or stories you can share without calling people out, but
I'll say this. I don't know about red flags necessarily. I'm sure some will come up as I'm talking about this, but I know what I'll tell my producer students, my engineer students, is I will tell them to just make sure that whatever content you're making actually matters to the people you're trying to get the attention of, right? It's so easy. I use this example all the time. It's so easy for me to make a mix tutorial about something that I did. If I'm trying to teach mixing lessons or production lessons, perfect, because that's my intended audience, that's my goal, and the content that I'd be making there is that's what those students are looking for. It's what they need. If I'm making mix tutorials with the goal of trying to attract artist clients to hire me, that's not the most effective way to do that, because I don't know, a lot of producers and engineers will say that they're doing that to try to show that they know what they're talking about and show their authority or whatever. But like your actual mixes will tell people like whether or not you know what you're doing, but no one's going to check your mixes. No one's going to actually go to your website and even listen to it unless you can make them feel compelled to go to your website, listen to it, because those artists and whoever it is, like they don't owe you anything. They don't have to go to your website. If they go to your website, they don't have to click listen. They don't have to read it. So what you should be doing is focusing on making your ideal clients feel compelled to want to go there and want to learn more. And then once they're there, they get sucked in because you're speaking directly to all of their pain points.
Yeah. So this is true for all kinds of content. This is also true for artists. This is like, you don't want to make content for yourself or for people like you necessarily, unless you are your ideal client or your avatar, basically. But usually people make the mistake of creating the content that they would want to see instead of creating the content that is for their ideal audience. Same is true for bands. Many people will do like, they turn into these bands where they only make content or stuff that is interesting to other bands or to people like them, but not necessarily to the people they would want to listen, that they would love to have in their audience. And so even if artists like create content online, it's sometimes you have, it feels like they're making what they would want to see, but not necessarily what their audience would like to see. And then for producers, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
So red flags though, I'm still trying to think if there are any.
Well, I do feel like when you mentioned like having, 18 different genres and services on your website, that's like a red flag from a client's point of view as well. Like as if I was an artist wanting to hire a producer to go into the studio with them and make my hard rock album, and they had a polka credit that they were pumping out on their website, I wouldn't have a lot of faith that they're going to actually be able to deliver on the metal, even though metal's also listed on their website. It's like, well, are you a polka engineer or are you a metal engineer?
Yeah.
I think that is definitely a red flag that you've pointed out.
To me, a red flag in any way is like, honestly, this is not only true for producers. To me, a red flag that immediately comes to mind are like complainers or like people who just are negative in general. Like that's the thing. If I see someone, even if they're good at what they're doing, if I see people who constantly post like, people don't care about music anymore, or like musicians can't play their instruments anymore, and this or that is bad, and the industry is terrible, and this or that is a ripoff, and whatever.
Right.
These types of people, even though some of those things might be true, I don't think you're helping yourself or your band or your producer business or whatever you have. I don't think it helps to be that kind of person, even though some of those things might be true. And you can have discussions about this, but I don't think these are people you would want to work with. Like I personally avoid negative people and people who complain all the time, and I'm more drawn to people who find problems, who find solutions, they see the problems but they find solutions for it. They see challenges rather than things to complain about, and those are the people I want to surround myself with and work with. And those constant complainers, and there are some in our industry that are really good but still all the time complaining and negative, I don't know, those are not the people I want on my team usually. So maybe that's a thing.
Yep.
Yeah. I think back to your point about being the red flag, like a producer red flag from the perspective of an artist. And when you were saying how they have, too broad of a scope listed or no scope at all. They don't say what they do. They just say they're a producer, which is basically even more broad way of saying that. Like it's kind of like if you were a first time guitar. I hope I don't offend anybody in this group. Okay, so let's say you're a kid and you're going to learn guitar for the first time in like 3rd grade. Parents might get you a guitar at Walmart, right? Because Walmart sells a whole lot of stuff and you can get a guitar for cheap. It's probably not going to last you very long. And then when somebody buys their first, like, real guitar, like, an intermediate, like a Squire or something, then maybe they'll go to like Guitar Center or somewhere like that has, they're a little bit more focused. They're more focused on musical instruments, but they have kind of a wide variety of them. But then when you have like the real serious players, the real serious, players or collectors of guitars, they probably have like a real serious guitar shop that they go to that all they really focus on is just, guitars. And they've got stuff that's very boutique, very specialized. People that work there have a very deep understanding of the things that go on behind the scenes for like making these guitars, for like repairing these guitars. And there's no objective right or wrong about which kind of guitar player you're trying to sell guitars to, right? But you need to understand what kind of guitar players are going to go to those different kinds of stores to get it, right? Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
I hope.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, for example, I run ads for myself as an educator and for some of the branding stuff and like the client acquisition stuff that I help my producers and engineers students with. But I do not run ads for myself as a mixing engineer. And the reason is because the kind of clients that I want to work with would never in a million years hire a mix engineer they found through an ad. You know, like total beginners who are just like, they don't really know anything about mixing. They don't know what a good mixer is versus I don't want to say bad mixer, but like they don't have any kind of, they don't have a refined palette for being able to sense whether or not someone is good at what they do. And when they heard the term mix engineer before and that you need that for your song, and then they see your ad come across, sweet, that's you're answering their prayers and you're going to be the perfect fit for them. However, if it's their first time ever recording a song, the song's probably not that good. The quality is probably not that good. The budget is definitely not going to be that good. And will you find clients? Yeah, you'll find a lot of clients, but they're all going to be Walmart guitar buying.
Yeah.
I know
exactly what you mean. The type of artists you want, the established artists, they would never hire someone based off an ad. They have a network, they have recommendations, they know people, they find their partners in different ways, definitely not through an ad. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something I'd say, just be conscious of how you're presenting yourself. And because the thing is, like, no matter what you do, whether you're actively trying to brand yourself or not, whether or not you're actively trying to present yourself in a certain way, people are always going to have a first impression of you no matter what you do, right? So at least try to put the effort into making sure that first impression is the one that you want them to have.
Totally.
I'm going to derail this a little bit because you mentioned guitars, and I have a question from your bio.
Okay.
You got a song on Guitar Hero, is that correct?
Yes, Guitar Hero Live. Yeah, my old band Cheerleader, we had a song on that, and it was very surreal because I played Guitar Hero and like Rock Band a lot when I was in college. I think is when that first came out. And when I knew we got the placement in that Guitar Hero game, I was probably like mid-late 20s already, and I'm already like, was probably already like 2 or 3 generations of video game consoles behind. But I had a student that had it, and I remember the one day he told me he had that game, and we did our lesson, and after the lesson, I went back over to like the family's game room, and I was playing against, an 8-year-old student, and he just destroyed me at, my own band's song. And I was so okay with that. But it was super surreal. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, what a dream.
Yeah. Hey, is there any follow-up question on that, Malcolm? I just realized we have a question in the chat from Manel, and I want to get to that.
That's just like a dream kind of situation for me. So.
Yeah, it definitely is. I didn't even know that, and I love that fact. Like that's really funny. Yeah. So Manel is asking a really good question there. Manel is from Spain. He's in our coaching program in the Self-Recording Syndicate, and we have an add-on there for the people who are actually interested in not only learning how to record themselves, but working with others, building their studio business, becoming, doing the studio thing as either a side hustle or their main gig. And Manel is an awesome engineer from Spain, I have to say. Super talented musician, super talented producer and engineer. He delivered some mixes lately, some productions that have like blown me away. So shout out to Manel. This is awesome what you're doing. You're killing it. And his question is, so Carl, because he's just in the process of like creating his first website and getting the word out, he only worked on his own projects and a couple of friends and smaller projects so far. But I think he's really ready to work with more people, and the world needs to hear what he has to bring to the table. So he says, so Carl, what would you suggest we do when we don't know what music genres we want to work on? That's the question. So because earlier we said we should focus on certain genres and target certain people and speak to certain artists. And I guess Manel is one of those talented people who can do a lot of genres really well, like surprisingly well, I have to say. And so I can understand that question. So how do we find our niche? How do we find the thing that we really want to do and the artists we want to work with?
I love this question. Okay, so I want to talk about the difference between your genre niche and your style niche. Okay, so the genre niche is what I think most people think of when they talk about your niche. And that would be, I work on, heavy metal music, or I work on, hip hop and rap, or I work on pop, whatever that is. But I have met many, many, many more people that say that they work on lots of styles of music and they listen to all sorts of music. Way more people that do that than people that only work in like an actual specific genre. So what I like to use is what I call the style niche. And the style niche is figuring out and understanding all of the kind of underlying characteristics that are in the music that you're drawn to that are not necessarily specific to a genre.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I love like loud, articulate, catchy vocals, massive rhythm sections, and lots of little tiny nerdy nuances that nobody notices till the 10th time they listen to your song, right? Some pop music has that. Some pop music doesn't. Some hip hop has that. Some hip hop doesn't. Some metal has that. Some metal doesn't. Some country has that. Some country doesn't. So it's not necessarily about what the genre description is and how like Spotify categorizes it, right? And it's more about what are the characteristics in the music that draw me into it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like, I would say the kind of pop that I really am drawn to, like Dua Lipa would be a really good fit. Adele would not. Like, I'm not saying I don't love Adele, but that's not where my strengths would be. Or like Ed Sheeran, you know, like that doesn't really check off the boxes for me of what I feel like I could really just crush in the studio. And that's good. It's good to know, right? And so it's not just that I only do pop. I only or I don't do these other styles because they're not pop, even though they do have a lot of similar characteristics. Like that's what I like to focus on are the describing the things that draw me in, the things that I really shine, or the things that make me shine. I don't know. There's a sentence that makes sense, and I'm not sure exactly what that is. But you know what I mean? Like
yeah, you're conveying.
I know exactly what you mean, though.
Okay, good. And I don't just mean the shine off my bald head right now.
But I totally get that. I totally get that. The genre categorization is problematic in many ways, and even artists don't like that. I notice a lot of times when people fill out the application for our coaching program, for example, or when I ask artists who want to hire me as a mixer and I ask for their genre, I get pushback where they're like, I don't like to give myself a genre or whatever. I don't, they say like, I don't know what my genre is. I like this and I also like that. And I think I'm kind of in between. And then they start to describe what you just described as well. They start to describe the style and the character they love that can be found in many different genres. And so I love this. So you're basically saying you can be specialized in a certain aesthetic or a certain thing that is your thing that you do. And that can be applied to many different genres maybe, or with, and it's, hard to describe, but I think I get it. I think I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like if you write big, catchy, vocal forward songs with loud drums and lots of little textures, count me in. You know what I mean? Like that, it doesn't matter if that's, metalcore or if that's indie pop or if that's house or whatever, because I feel like I understand that energy. And it doesn't mean that I can't do other things. But the way that I describe this is that the more clear I can be about the things that I am drawn to and that I really kick ass at, that is like me having a destination for a road trip. Like I want to go cross country and I have a destination that I want to go to. Now, if I only stay on the highways going from Philadelphia on the east coast of the US all the way out to California, if I only go on the highways, that is going to be completely missing the point of a road trip.
Yeah.
Right? Because you want to stop and see all the little roadside attractions and see the country as you go through it. Yeah. However, if I just say, I mix pop and rap and rock and bluegrass and whatever, that's like getting in the car, not knowing where you want to go, just kind of driving. Like you're never going to end up at the destination we don't even have a destination to aim for. Yeah. So I do like to be kind of clear, like, I work in a lot of pop adjacent styles, which is a very broad thing if you really think about it. But it doesn't mean that I don't do weird glitchy art music sometimes. It doesn't mean that I don't do like choral music randomly. But it does mean that I can decide what I want to do and what I don't want to do. If I want to take a pee break off the highway and stop at the world's largest ball of yarn, then yes, I am going to, work on this ambient lo-fi album. That's like a fun little thing to stretch my legs, see the sights while I'm here before I get back on the highway continuing towards my destination.
Got it.
Right.
Got it. Love that. And I remember Anita, because Anita said in the chat here, I love this answer. Thank you. And thank you, Manel, for asking this. And Manel says, thanks a lot, Carl. Makes a lot of sense. I hate music genres. So, yeah, totally. And I remember, Anita, when we first talked in the program as well, it was kind of the same thing where you said, like, well, I like all these different artists and bands. And they were kind of, I totally got it. They had a vibe that they had in common, but there was totally different genres. And you explained to me how you liked certain aspects of each of those songs and what you think they have in common and why you like those. And it was the same thing, different genres, but there was one or a few common things that you liked across all of these, and it was very hard to describe, but I got it. And yeah, so this seems to be really relevant. And it's also relevant for the musicians listening, I think, because they might have a hard time figuring out their artist identity, or they might feel the need to put themselves into some kind of genre or whatever. And when in reality, maybe it's a certain aesthetic, a certain style that they have, a certain thing, and it might be a blend of different genres or whatever. And that is what you can lean into instead of trying to be a typical rock band or a typical whatever else. So I love this conversation in general. This is really great. And I always felt that way as a mixer as well, and as a producer, where I was like, yes, I have this punk rock background and I know punk and rock and metal and heavy music and all those things, but those are very different to begin with. Like metal is not the same as like a punk rock record. And then there is like indie stuff and more grungy stuff and more polished stuff and like all these. But I always liked a certain energy and a certain vibe and a certain rawness, roughness to it. I never, across all these genres. And it was always very hard for me to come up with a good tagline on the website or a good thing that I could tell people when they ask me what my niche is or what I'm specializing in. Always hard to put in words because it doesn't look very good if you say I mix rock, punk, metal, hardcore, indie, and like you have this list of genres. And I was always trying to find the one word that describes it all, which is very hard to do. But yeah, style is better than the genres.
It's like I love mixing heavy bands.
Yeah.
It's like It's a very specific word that also can be interpreted by
in many different ways.
People in much different ways. And if that resonates with people, then that's all you really need.
Yeah. That's the exact word I use usually is heavy, because to me, like Hurt by Johnny Cash is heavy. It's super heavy, but like it's not metal. It's not aggressive, but it's a heavy song. It's like, it can be emotionally heavy. It can be wall of sound heavy. It just has to be like impactful, and I'm darn happy to be working on it.
Yeah, and if your thing is maybe even as a mix engineer, if you love working on music that has really like introspective lyrics, like that's just really what draws you in. Even though that the lyrics aren't, like you're not mixing the lyrics, you know what I mean? But so it's something that's still obviously very related, but it may seem a little counterintuitive, or at least like most people wouldn't think to mention a certain lyrical style that you're drawn to when you're talking about mixing. But it absolutely is a really valid way to describe that, especially if you're like me and you're a super dork and you love to make mix decisions that moment to moment are, reacting to the lyrics themselves. That's there. And also, like, another thing you could do too is, I don't want to forget this. One thing that I love contrast. As a mix engineer, I love contrast and drama, right? Yeah. So those aren't even like specific things like, massive rhythm sections and like really articulate vocals. Like those are broad, but they're more specific than the pure like almost ambiguous emotional sensation of contrast and drama and energy shifts and things that we're drawn to. And it just comes down to whoever's listening to this, whether you're an artist trying to figure out how to describe the music that you make, or you're a producer and engineer trying to figure out how to describe the music that you're drawn to. Just listen to it, and just when you have a song that you're just in love with, whether it's something that you've listened to a million times or a song you've heard for the first time that day, try to take a step back and see like what drew you in the first place. Was it the melody that drew you in? Was it the vocal layering that drew you in? Was it the just nasty guitar tone that drew you in? Like, there's no wrong answer, and there's no one answer. But trying to take a step back in the moment and ask yourself, okay, well, why is this on my reference playlist? Why does this song make me so happy? Why am I always going back to this one? Why was this in my Spotify Wrapped? What about it made me want to listen to, the Skrillex album Quest for Fire so many times that it even beat out Kids Bop in my, because I have a shared Spotify account with my family, and if something beats out Kids Bop, I listen to it a lot.
Yeah.
So, but it's just asking yourself,
my Spotify is wild because of my kids. Like, I can tell you. Yeah.
Oh yeah. When The Pain Remains came out, it was like Lorna Shore and Kids Bop were like neck and neck, and I love that. But even that, it's a surprise. Like earlier, I'm like wearing my Signs of the Swarm hoodie. You know what I mean? And but I work on pop music, and I was listening to. I mentioned Dua Lipa. I was listening to Dua Lipa on the way to drop my daughter off to school while wearing Signs of the Swarm hat. Yeah. You can listen to a bunch of different things, and it's just a question of, well, what about it draws you in? What about it do you love?
I mean,
or what about it do you hate?
Yeah, totally.
What about so many people makes you not want to work on a particular style? I'm so sorry.
No, sorry. There was a delay. I thought you were done. Sorry for that. Didn't want to interrupt. No, I totally relatable. Our mutual friend John McLucas, this is a great example for that as well. He used to play in a metal band. He was a drummer in a metal band, and then he was in a part of a metal community. And I know he loves many of these bands and listened to that. But now he's a pop producer and does totally opposite things. But I'm sure he loves to listen to some of the heavy stuff still, and why would you have to decide, right? And you can take all these influences and the energy and turn it into whatever you're working on. We could go on forever about this. This is a great topic. I know we're coming up to the end of this, and I think this was a very interesting episode for many reasons, because it's something we don't do very often, and it's something that also is hard to put in words and to describe, because it's really about the connection and about how you care about music and about things that are more of a feeling thing than something like really actionable where you do these steps and then it works, kind of thing. However, Carl has managed to put a lot of the branding stuff and a lot of the things that we touched on today into a system, which is a course that you're offering that is called Communicating the Care, Attracting Your Ideal Studio Clients. So for those in the audience who want to learn about that stuff and want to dive deeper in a more structured way and, have lessons and all of that, there is a link. And Carl was but Carl sent us a really cool offer, a little special thing for our listeners there. So you actually get $50 off this course if you go to the selfrecordingband.com/care. It will take you to that page, and you will get $50 off this course that is already very reasonably priced. And I can highly recommend it. And if that is something you're interested in, check it out and learn from Carl himself. He has helped many producers do the same thing. He's a successful mixer and co-producer in his own right. And yeah, I really don't think there's, as far as I see, there's even a 100% risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. So why not just try it? Why not just give it a shot if you're interested in connecting with artists and finding your ideal clients for your studio? And what I love so much about this is I wouldn't promote any kind of studio business course on this podcast, but why I'm doing this is, first of all, our mutual friends who connected us, and it immediately clicked and worked. And I always like to work with people that I like and that, where there's a vibe. And then second, what I like so much about your approach, Carl, is that you are good at branding and the business side of things without doing the typical business things, and without that's very tricky. There's a lot of people out there teaching things that are true and work in other industries, and it's not wrong, but the result is a lot of artists or producers out there talking to their ideal clients like they were you almost think like they're a law firm or something, or some weird business agency, or I don't know. And I think you really, it's clear that you really care, and it's clear that you communicate in a way that it resonates with artists, and I want to see more of that. I don't have a problem with seeing ads on social media. I don't have a problem with seeing people selling me their stuff. If it's stuff that I actually resonate with, that speaks to me, that seems to be solving a problem for me, I don't have any problem with people selling their stuff. I just don't want to see the same businessy, salesy type of things over and over again. And I think artists are tired of that as well. So I'm all for more connection, more care, being more selective with who you work with, building great teams to create more great art in the world. And Carl can be a part of that puzzle and help you do that.
How could you just it's like everything that I need said about me? I'm just going to be like, hey, Benny, can you just say something nice about my sweater or something, and then next thing you know, I'm going to have like this beautiful monologue that I can use. Yeah. Like I need more of you in my life. Just for the ego boost. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Luckily, we recorded that, Carl, so it's all yours.
I'm going to make that my ringtone.
Yeah.
Alarm clock.
Yeah. I just literally made that up right now, but I feel like that. So for that, so it's real. I mean it. And I love to connect you with people that can hopefully then learn from you. And it's better. It's a win-win-win scenario. So I like that. Anything else, Carl? Anything we forgot to talk about? Where else can we point people to? Your socials, your website?
Yeah, at Carl Bahner, CarlBahner. Go to my website, carlbahner.com. I would love to, obviously, go to my website. If it doesn't speak to you, that's cool. But I feel like it's a good example of kind of the things I was talking about, about trying to really be specific to making the people that go to that site feel immediately heard and understood. And then if it does speak to you, then obviously we should talk about it too. So say hi on Instagram. I'm a dork. I'm there all the time. I like having conversations. I like meeting people. So love to see you there. And I'm just so immensely thankful for you having me on this podcast, not just for the glowing reviews you continue to give me, but just for both of you being so wonderful and kind, and really just trying to look out for your audience and just give them the best, experience and careers that they could possibly have. And I want to say that on behalf of all of your listeners, thank you guys for what you're doing.
Oh, cheers, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carl. I really appreciate that. See, there I got my monologue that I can put on the website or somewhere. Awesome, dude. Like, that's so great. Yes, I'm going to put all of that in the show notes, the links, the socials, the course, all of that. And I hope we stay in touch. And I think we will. Anita says, thank you. Anita says, love this. So they've enjoyed it as well. Good to know. Yeah, I think this is awesome. And we'll be in touch. And if there are any follow-up questions, or if we get, the feedback from when the podcast is out, I'm just going to send you that stuff. Don't feel the need to reply to everything or whatever, but I'm just going to send you stuff. Yeah, awesome.
I want to reply to it.
Great. Thanks so much. Have a great day, Carl. And you guys, thank you for listening. And we talk to you next week, as always.
All right. Thank you so much.